Game leaders fueled by Gatorade. Will Howard off to a great start as Ohio State's QB, tied for first in the conference in terms of TDs responsible for. That includes 4 on the ground. Also in the top 3 in the Big Ten in terms of yards per attempt and completions of 30 and 40 yards. He is 8th in the nation in passing efficiency. And Ohio State quarterback Will Howard joining us now. He is today's big interview. Will, really appreciate your time. I've got to say, I have been fired up about this game for quite some time, and my level of involvement will be watching it on television and then talking about it. So I can only imagine, like, what are the emotions that you are feeling as you head towards this first mammoth matchup of the year?
Man, I'm excited. It's a big matchup. You know, we know that, you know, it's been circled for a while, and you know, I think a lot of people expected us to be going into this game pretty highly ranked, and you know, it's a 2-3 matchup, man. It's you know, it's what you dream about when you're a kid. It's why you come to a place like Ohio State. So, man, I'm fired up. I can't wait to get out there and strap them up. It's going to be a fun one.
Well, you have started in some big games. I mean, you played in a conference championship game and won at Kansas State when you were in the Big 12. But again, I do think there's a different level in this game. This is the one game in the country that everyone is talking about this week. How do you feel the difference in the magnitude?
Yeah, you know, it's definitely a big game. We're trying not to make it too big or anything like that, and we're trying not to change anything. But you know, we understand the magnitude of this one, and we know how much this means to this fan base, and you know, we know how many people are going to be watching. But you know, like I said, man, we just got to attack it like we normally do. You know, have a really good week of preparation. You know, I think it's 2 really good teams going against each other, and you know, I think that the better prepared team's going to win. So, you know, we can't look too far ahead. We can't play the game right now. So we got to do what we can and prepare for them and be ready, you know, when we get out there on Saturday.
Well, speaking of preparation, what stands out to you when you watch the Oregon defense?
I think, you know, I think they got a lot of good players. I think, you know, they got a lot of flash. Some of their, you know, their guys in the secondary, you know, Jabbar, he's a good player. You know, my buddy Kobe's over there. You know, they got some good transfers that came in. You know, I think some older guys. You know, I think on the defensive front, they're big. They're athletic. You know, I think Birch is playing some really good football. You know, but I'm confident, man. I think, you know, we got some good plans for them. I'm sure they're going to throw some new stuff at us. You know, Coach Lanning does a really good job with that defense. But you know, it's going to be a good challenge. You know, coming off of a game against a really good defense like Iowa. You know, I think that was a good, you know, kind of precursor to this game. But I think we're up for the challenge, man. We're excited. We know it's going to be, you know, a great defense versus a great offense on both sides. So, you know, I'm excited for the challenge.
Well, you are new to the Big Ten. I do want to introduce people to you a little bit, get into your background. And I found it interesting that before you were slicing up defenses, you were revolutionizing infant sleep as we know it. Tell me about a baby Merlin's magic sleep suit.
That's a crazy pull right there. That's funny that you figured that out. Yeah, that's my parents started the Baby Merlin Magic Sleep Suit. It's a baby sleepwear product that actually I used when I was a little kid. I struggled sleeping when I got out of the swaddle, and it's really a swaddle transition product. It kind of looks like a snowsuit. You know, the babies kind of are stuck like that. It muffles their startles and keeps them asleep, lets them sleep on their back. So my parents ran that for a while, and they ended up selling it. But you know, I think they might get back into it soon. I don't know. I think they're just itching.
Do you sleep well now?
I sleep great now. I don't know. It must have done something for me. We get asked all the time, like, you guys have adult versions of this, but haven't found that out yet. We're still working on that one.
All right. Well, it trains you. It's the gift that keeps on giving, I suppose.
No doubt.
I have to imagine, on a maybe more serious note, that you lost some sleep your junior year of high school. You were a highly thought of quarterback prospect, and then you broke your wrist your junior year. Tell us about that experience and then what you learned from that going forward.
Yeah, I mean, going into my junior year, I knew it was a really big year for college recruiting, and you know, I was picking up some steam coming off my sophomore year. I had some success, but you know, I felt like I still had more to prove. And going into that junior year, I knew it was big. I started off the season pretty well. Ended up playing in our rivalry game and breaking my arm, and I was at that time talking pretty heavily with Penn State, Syracuse, Pitt, some schools around me, but Penn State was the big one, and that was my dream school where I always wanted to go. And after that happened, I kind of stopped hearing from some people, especially Penn State, and it kind of lit a fire under me a little bit, and made me want to come back even stronger my senior year. And we had a really good senior year, and then still to this day, man, I want to prove those people wrong that that kind of looked me over when I had that injury. And it was tough, but we made it through.
Well, you certainly did prove them wrong during your time at Kansas State. You set a school record for touchdown passes there in your career. And then you went into the portal, and I know you were talking to USC and Miami and some others in addition to Ohio State. What ultimately swayed you to go to Columbus?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of great programs I was talking to, but when I started talking to Coach Day and coming to play for the Buckeyes, it really was an opportunity I couldn't turn down. It was, the NFL draft was still a big possibility. I felt like if I found a place where I felt like my skill set could be developed and I could put myself in a position to go higher in the draft and compete for a national championship, that was what I wanted to do. And when I started talking to Ohio State, everything kind of made sense and it added up. And honestly, talking to Coach Day, just the more I talked to him, more comfortable I got, and it all ended up working out, and here we are, man. So I'm really, really blessed to be here and blessed to be a Buckeye.
Well, as you certainly know, and as you probably knew when you were being recruited by Ohio State and ultimately committed, the outside discussion surrounding this program this year, to a certain extent, has been national championship or bust. I certainly think it's beat Michigan, win the Big Ten championship or bust. How have you dealt with that pressure of being in the spotlight?
Yeah, I mean, I knew what I was signing up for. Coming to Ohio State, what the expectations are, and everyone keeps saying that it's natty or bust this year, but I feel like it's that every year. At a place like this where the expectations are so high, and but that's what I wanted, and I wanted that challenge going into the NFL. The stakes are just so much higher, and they get more intense as you go up. And I wanted to put myself in a situation like this to. Pressure's a privilege, man. CJ says that all the time, and being on this stage in this place, it's something that you gotta run with, and you gotta accept and really love. It makes it harder, but it makes it more rewarding in the end.
One thing that I found really interesting was you committed to Ohio State, and obviously Ryan Day has a huge say in this offense, but you committed in early January. They ended up hiring Bill O'Brien as the OC, and then he leaves. So Chip Kelly didn't come until February. So you didn't know who your offensive coordinator was going to be. How have you jibed with Coach Kelly's offense, and what was that interim period like where you weren't really sure who would be kind of overseeing that offensive room?
Yeah, it was confusing at first. I didn't really, I didn't really learn our offensive system, I would say, probably until we went through spring ball. Like, it was kind of a baptism by fire a little bit, just kind of throw it in there and understanding, trying to learn the offense, as I went in the spring. And so it didn't feel like I really settled into the offense until about midway through the spring, or really until the fall. But I thought Coach O'Brien was awesome. Loved Obi. He was great, but he had to make the move that was right for his family. I think everything ended up working out as it was meant to be. God has a plan for everything. And I think Coach Kelly being here has been awesome. The things that he does, especially in the run game, I mean, he's a mastermind. He's a genius. I really like the way that he coaches too, and the way that he teaches. He's very much a teacher, and he wants to develop you as a player and as a person. And I really appreciate the way that he kind of pushes me and tries to develop me. And he and Coach Day obviously have a great relationship and trust each other a lot. So I think just the combination of those two, and it's really worked out for us for our offense. And I'm excited to see what Coach Kelly's got up his sleeve the rest of the year.
One of the things I find really interesting in this day and age with as much transferring as goes on, particularly at the quarterback spot where the expectation is that you're a leader, you came into a place where you didn't know the culture. And so what's the balancing act of trying to take over a leadership position in the ultimate position of leadership, I would argue, in all of sport, and yet finding your way through this unfamiliar culture? How did you handle that situation?
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to kind of navigate. And going through it, when I was at Kansas State, I had a guy named Adrian Martinez transfer in my junior year, and he just the way that he went about his transfer, and coming in and being humble, not really trying to be the alpha guy right away. He kind of sat back, took his time to get to know guys, to get to have relationships with people, and to understand kind of how we ran things. And that's kind of how I tried to emulate my transfer. I wanted to be, that guy that wasn't necessarily coming in and barking right away before people knew me. I wanted to establish relationships with guys. I wanted to know why we were all here. And once we got to that point, I felt like really in the summer was when I kind of settled into my leadership role here. And it's hard. It's not easy to come in and to try and win over a whole team. But I think the way that you go about it is just be yourself, be genuine, and I think if they understand that you care about them, then that means a whole heck of a lot, and your voice will carry a lot further.
Well, I know Adrian quite well from his time at Nebraska, and I would say that's a really good guy to emulate. He is such an impressive
Absolutely.
young guy. I want to ask you a little bit about Jeremiah Smith. I mean, you guys have a ton of talent on your team, and I almost feel bad singling out one player, but man, he is just so amazing for us to watch. Is there a moment or a play that particularly stands out to you, Will, when you think about what Jeremiah can do?
I mean, you can really pick any of them, man. The kid's a stud. He's a mistake eraser out there. He makes me right, and he's just an unbelievable player. The fact that he's 18 doing the things that he's doing, I mean, it's freaky, man. It's he doesn't seem like a freshman at all. You watch him, you talk to him, watch him go about his business. He doesn't go about it like an 18-year-old true freshman. He seems like a vet, and to be able to have that to throw to and to work with every day, man, he's only just scratching the surface of how good he can be, and he's already, I think, one of the best receivers in college football, if not the best. So I mean, he's a stud, man, and I'm excited for him, and he's just continuing to get better every single week. And I think he's got a great mindset about him. He's a great kid, man, and that's the best part about him.
It's pretty nice to have him down in the red zone, as you said. The mistake eraser. You guys have been so good down there in all your red zone trips. 21 of them, you've scored 20 touchdowns this year. That's second best percentage in terms of touchdowns in the nation. You had a field goal in the other red zone trip. Ohio State was 47th in the nation in red zone touchdown percentage last year. It was really an area where they struggled relatively. Aside from having great players, what do you think has been the difference there as you've studied what they did last year and what you guys have done this year?
Yeah, I didn't look much at what they did last year. I didn't even really know how the red zone efficiency was, but that was a big emphasis for us, was just finishing drives, and not leaving any points on the board. Those 4-point plays, on third down in the red zone are huge. And we put a big emphasis on that in the offseason, and I think we've just done a really good job of executing, and I think the O-line's held up. We've ran the ball when we needed to, we've thrown the ball when we needed to, and receivers, and we've just executed well, and we got to continue to keep that up because it's been a difference maker for us.
Last question for you, Will. As you think about, there's so much preparation that goes into this week, and I know you're looking at every single detail, but I always kind of liken it to, hey, what's on the grease board in the locker room? Like if there are 2 or 3 things that you really need to do on the offensive end to leave Eugene with a win, what would those things be?
That's a good question. We got our, all of our goals for the game and whatnot. But, I think for me, it's, we want to attack them downhill and go after them a little bit in the run game. We want to make sure that we control the noise, and, we know it's going to be loud. We know it'll be a hostile environment, but we can't be overcome by events. We need to make sure that we, just stay on track, stay neutral. And I think a big thing for me is just, staying calm under pressure and being the, the calm amongst the storm, and making sure that everybody can look to me and, not be worried about anything, and kind of weather any storms that happen, because, we know there's going to be adversity, and there's some things that are going to happen that probably we don't want to happen, and they'll make some plays because they're a really good football team. But we got to respond and be able to come back from adversity, and make sure that not too much of it happens, and that we just keep attacking them.
Will Howard, really a pleasure to visit with you. I would encourage you to get lots of good sleep heading into Saturday, but it feels like you've got that area covered. So I'll just say good luck, and we look forward to watching the game.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.